Before she answers, Adrian, tell her your wife is standing behind you. The applause in the lobby died so fast that I could hear the diamond ring box snap shut in his hand. 200 employees turned toward me. I was still holding the red paper bag that contained his favorite lunch and 2 first-class tickets to Paris. The tickets had been my Valentine surprise. I had spent 3 weeks arranging the trip around his schedule because Adrian kept saying the company was demanding everything from him. Now he was on one knee in front of Serena Blake, our chief executive officer, beneath an arch of white roses paid for by the company. Serena stared at me. Then she looked down at Adrian. Your wife. He rose too quickly and nearly lost his balance. Eleanor, he said, what are you doing here? It was such a strange question that I almost laughed. I had helped design the building. My father's money had purchased the first servers. My name was on the original patent filings. And yet my husband looked at me as if I had broken into a life that belonged only to him. I came to surprise you, I said. My voice sounded calm. I did not feel calm. Serena stepped backward. Adrian told me you had been separated for 2 years. A murmur moved through the crowd. Adrian glanced toward the employees, toward the cameras, toward every face except mine. This isn't the place. No, I said. It was apparently the perfect place to propose to another woman. His jaw tightened. We need to speak privately. Serena's face had turned white. Are you still married? He looked at her. That single hesitation answered for him. I saw the moment she understood. The ring. The apartment he claimed was his permanent residence. The weekends he said he spent negotiating with the board. The story about a cold, distant wife who had abandoned the marriage years ago. He had built an entire second reality and invited her to live inside it. Adrian reached for my arm. I stepped away. Do not touch me. His voice dropped. You're making a personal matter into a public spectacle. I looked around at the roses, the champagne, the company videographer, and the giant screen displaying, Will you marry me, Serena? You did that without my help. A few employees lowered their eyes. Adrian straightened his jacket, trying to recover the man they knew from magazine covers and conference stages. Security, he called. No one moved. He called again. Escort Mrs. Cross upstairs. The head of security, Luis Ortega, looked at me apologetically. Mrs. Cross is a board principal, he said. I cannot remove her without authorization from the ownership committee. Adrian's face changed. He had spent years convincing employees that I was merely the founder's quiet wife. Most of them did not know that Vale Meridian Systems belonged primarily to Vale Legacy Partners. And Vale Legacy Partners belonged to me. I set the Valentine's bag on the reception desk. The corner folded beneath the weight of the lunch containers. Congratulations on the event, I said. You may want to save the flowers. The company will not be reimbursing them. Then I turned and walked out. The revolving doors opened into freezing rain. I reached the parking garage before my knees gave way. I sat on the concrete beside my car, one hand pressed against my mouth so no one would hear me cry. 14 years of marriage had ended beneath a banner I had indirectly paid for. That was the first thought that came to me. The second was worse. He had not looked ashamed. He had looked inconvenienced. My phone began vibrating before I could stand. Adrian, then Serena, then Adrian again. I ignored both and called Julian Mercer, my family attorney and the corporate counsel who had handled Vale Legacy Partners since my father was alive. He answered on the second ring. Eleanor, I need you to listen carefully. Something in my voice made him stop whatever he was doing. I'm listening. I just watched Adrian propose to Serena Blake in the lobby of Vale Meridian. There was silence. Then very quietly, are you certain? There were 200 witnesses and a ring. Where are you? The parking garage. Do not drive yet. I'm not calling for comfort, Julian. I know. I want every joint account restricted to dual authorization. Cancel the Paris reservations, suspend the capital support letter for the Helix expansion, and schedule an emergency board meeting. Julian inhaled. The support letter is worth $36 million. I know exactly what it is worth. Eleanor, if we suspend it tonight, the lenders will ask questions. Let them. Do you want Adrian notified? After the restrictions are active. Another pause. Then Julian said, I'll begin now. I ended the call and finally stood. My legs shook so badly that I had to hold the roof of the car. I wanted to scream. I wanted to go back inside and throw the ring through the glass wall. I wanted to ask how long he had been laughing at me. Instead, I opened the passenger door and saw the envelope containing our Paris itinerary. The hotel overlooked the Seine. Adrian had once told me Paris was the place where he first realized he loved me. I tore the itinerary in half, then in half again. By the time I reached home, the Valentine's proposal was already online. An employee had posted a 30-second video. Adrian kneeling, Serena covering her mouth, the crowd cheering. Then my voice from behind the camera. Before she answers, Adrian tell her, your wife is standing behind you. The video ended before anyone could see me leave. Comments multiplied beneath it. Some assumed it was a publicity stunt. Some called me the bitter ex-wife. One person wrote, according to Adrian, they've been separated forever. I read that sentence until the words blurred. Separated forever. That night, I walked through the house we had shared for 11 years and found evidence of a marriage that still looked alive. His coffee mug in the sink, his shoes beside the stairs, a dry cleaning ticket in his coat pocket, a note he had left me 3 mornings earlier. Dinner Friday, miss you. My body began to understand the betrayal before my mind could organize it. I vomited in the downstairs bathroom. Then I sat on the tile floor and remembered every time he had called from the apartment he claimed was for late-night work. Every board dinner I skipped because he said spouses would distract from negotiations. Every interview where he referred to himself as the sole visionary behind Vale Meridian, and I told myself, public simplicity helped the brand. I had allowed him to erase me because I believed we were building the same future. The truth was that I had been building his stage. Adrian came home at 11:40. The front door opened. Eleanor, I remained in my father's old study. He entered without knocking. His tie was gone. His face looked exhausted. You froze the accounts. I restricted them. You suspended the Helix funding. Yes. Do you understand what that could do to the company? I looked up from the laptop. Do you? He closed the door. This is emotional retaliation. You proposed to another woman during a company event. We were going to tell you. I stared at him. He rubbed his forehead. Serena believed we were separated. Because you told her that. Our marriage has been over for years. That is interesting. 3 nights ago, you asked me to have dinner with you. You know what I mean? No. I know what words mean. I know what legal marriage means. And I know what fraud looks like when someone creates a fictional separation to support an affair. His eyes narrowed. Fraud. You rented an apartment. I needed space. You charged it to the company? He stopped. I had guessed. The silence confirmed it. How do you know that he asked? I did not until now. He looked toward the door. For the first time I saw fear. It disappeared quickly beneath anger. You're trying to destroy me. No, Adrian. I'm trying to learn what else you used my company to hide. He laughed once. Your company. There it was. The contempt beneath the marriage. I built Vale Meridian, he said. I brought in the clients. I recruited the executive team. I made the market trust us. And my father funded the first 8 years. You inherited his money. I also wrote the architecture for the platform you still cannot explain without a slide deck. His face hardened. You stepped back. I stepped into governance. I did not surrender ownership. You were never interested in running the place. I was interested in making sure it survived men who confused visibility with possession. He moved closer to the desk. You cannot pull funding because you are angry about Serena. I can suspend funding because Vale Legacy Partners owns 82% of the voting shares. His expression went still. He knew the number. But I do not think he had heard it spoken aloud in years. The company's growth of the press coverage and his title had allowed him to believe the legal structure was an old technicality. It was not. Julian is convening the board tomorrow morning, I said. You will preserve all records, devices, and communications. This is insane. No, Insane was asking another woman to marry you before dissolving your first marriage. He pointed at me. You will regret humiliating me. I stood. You humiliated yourself. I was simply present. He slept at the apartment that night. At 8 the next morning, the board assembled in the 10th floor conference room. Adrian arrived with 2 attorneys. Serena did not attend. She had been placed on paid administrative leave pending an ethics review. I entered with Julian and Naomi Chen, a forensic accountant whose firm specialized in executive misconduct. Adrian stared at Naomi. What is she doing here? I took my seat at the head of the table. Protecting the company. He laughed under his breath. You haven't attended an operational meeting in 18 months. This is not an operational meeting. Julian distributed folders. The majority shareholder has requested an independent review of executive expenditures, governance approvals, related party transactions, and possible document falsification. One board member, Warren Pike, adjusted his glasses. Document falsification. Naomi connected her laptop to the screen. We conducted a preliminary overnight review of the document repository following preservation notice. We identified 12 board consents bearing Mrs. Cross's electronic signature that were not transmitted from her account device or authorized counsel. My chest tightened. I had expected misuse. I had not expected my signature. Adrian's attorney leaned forward. Electronic routing errors are common. Naomi clicked to the next slide. The files were created on a company laptop assigned to Mr. Cross. Metadata shows a scanned signature image copied from a 2019 financing consent and inserted into documents between 2021 and 2025. The room changed. No one looked bored anymore. Adrian's face went pale. That is not proof I inserted anything. No, Naomi said. It is proof the files originated from your device. The full forensic review will determine the rest. I opened the first consent. It authorized a $3 million executive bridge loan. My signature appeared at the bottom. I had never seen the document. The next approved a vendor exception for Northline Advisory. The next changed the reimbursement policy for strategic relationship development. I looked at Adrian. What is Northline? He did not answer. Naomi did. A consulting company owned by the brother of Mr. Cross's college roommate. It has received $2.4 million over 4 years. We have not yet identified corresponding work product. Warren swore under his breath. Julian continued. We have also identified corporate payments for the apartment on Bell Street jewelry, purchased under an investor relations expense code, and travel reimbursements that overlap with personal trips. The ring. The ring he had held beneath the white roses. Was Serena's ring charged to the company? I asked. Naomi looked at me with restrained sympathy. The purchase was coded as an investor relationship gift. Something in me broke again. Not loudly. Just one more internal door closing. Adrian turned toward the board. This is being framed by a vindictive spouse. I looked at him. Did I forge my own signature? He said nothing. Did I rent your apartment? Silence. Did I purchase the ring you used yesterday? His lawyer touched his arm, but Adrian pulled away. You benefited from everything I built? I benefited from the company we built. You benefited from my silence. The board voted to expand the investigation. Adrian was suspended from all executive authority. His building access was limited. The moment the vote passed, he stood so abruptly that his chair struck the wall. You cannot do this. Warren looked at him. The board just did. Adrian turned to me. You think they will follow you? They don't even know you. I held his gaze. They know the shareholder agreement. Security escorted him out. I remained in the conference room after everyone left. Naomi quietly placed a glass of water beside me. I'm sorry, she said. I nodded, but I could not speak. People imagine that power makes betrayal painless. It does not. Owning 82% of a company did not stop me from remembering the first apartment Adrian and I shared where the heat failed every winter. It did not erase the nights we coded on opposite sides of a folding table. It did not remove the memory of him holding my hand at my father's funeral and promising I would never have to carry the company alone. Power only gave me the ability to act while my heart was still breaking. The forensic review lasted 19 days. Each morning brought another discovery. Adrian had altered board minutes. He approved temporary executive loans without required signatures. He inflated travel expenses. He accelerated payments to vendors connected to friends. He used corporate funds for the Bell Street apartment for 14 months. He had even submitted renovation costs as client hospitality improvements. Then Naomi found the most dangerous document. A draft recapitalization proposal. It would have created a new class of voting shares tied to executive performance and diluted Vail legacy partners below control level over 3 funding rounds. My forged signature appeared on the preliminary authorization. He had not only betrayed our marriage, he had been preparing to take the company. When Julian showed me, I felt almost calm. How close was this to being presented? 2 weeks, he said. Did Serena know? We have no evidence that she did. That mattered. Serena had sent her phone, laptop, and personal records to the investigators voluntarily. Her messages showed Adrian telling her that our divorce had been delayed by an inheritance dispute. He sent photographs of the Bell Street apartment. He created a false email thread in which I supposedly agreed to keep the separation private until after a financing round. He had lied to her with the same discipline he used to lie to me. Serena asked to meet. We sat in Julian's office with counsel present. She looked different without the stage lights and diamond ring. Tired, ashamed, angry. I am not asking you to forgive me, she said. I don't know whether there is anything to forgive yet. I should have verified. Yes, she accepted that without defense. He told me you had no active role in the company. That was convenient. He said the family holding was controlled by trustees who supported him. I am the controlling trustee. She closed her eyes. I feel incredibly stupid. I know that feeling. Her eyes filled. He said you refused to sign divorce papers because you wanted to punish him financially. I looked out the window. Yesterday was the first time I heard we were separated. Serena covered her mouth. For a moment, we were not wife and mistress. We were 2 women sitting in the wreckage of one man's manufactured reality. Did you know about the expenses? I asked. Number. The apartment. I believed he paid for it. The ring. I had no idea. Did you approve Northline? Number. Adrian classified it as legacy founder authority. I nodded. If the investigation confirms that I will not ask the board to punish you for being deceived. She stared at me. Why? Because I am not going to become him just because he hurt me. The full board hearing took place on March 10th. Adrian attended by video with 3 attorneys. Naomi presented the findings for 2 hours. 31 falsified approvals. $6.8 million in improper or unsupported expenditures. Multiple breaches of fiduciary duty. Concealment of a relationship with a direct report executive. Attempted dilution of the majority shareholder through forged consent. When Naomi finished, Julian read the termination recommendation. Dismissal for cause. Immediate cancellation of all unvested options. Permanent removal from executive and board eligibility under the founder agreement. Civil recovery proceedings. Referral of evidence to law enforcement and regulators. Adrian's attorney argued that the investigation was contaminated by marital hostility. I answered before Julian could. The metadata is not married to me. Silence filled the room. I continued. The bank records did not discover an affair. The forged signatures did not become invalid because I was embarrassed in public. This board is not deciding whether Adrian was a good husband. It is deciding whether he can be trusted with corporate authority. Warren called the vote. It was unanimous. Adrian stared through the screen. For the first time since I had known him, there was no title protecting him. No audience applauding. No company logo behind his chair. Just a man in a rented conference room discovering that borrowed power can be recalled. He looked at me. You would have nothing without me. My hands became cold. Then I remembered the first version of the platform. My father reading our business plan at his kitchen table. The first hospital network that signed because I spent 6 months rebuilding the security layer. I leaned toward the microphone. You were the face, Adrian. You were never the foundation. The connection ended. I did not celebrate. I went home and cried in the shower where no one could hear me. The divorce became public within a week. Reporters waited outside headquarters. Some stories called me the invisible heiress. Others called me the scorned wife who seized control. Neither description was correct. I was not invisible. People had simply been trained to look where Adrian pointed. And I had not seized control. I had stopped pretending I did not already have it. Serena's review concluded in April. The investigators found no evidence that she participated in the financial misconduct or knew our marriage remained intact. The ethics committee criticized her failure to independently verify Adrian's claims, but recommended reinstatement. I supported the recommendation. At the employee town hall, Serena stood beside me before nearly 900 staff members. She spoke first. I accepted a personal story without verifying the conflicts it created. I was deceived, but I also failed to ask enough questions. I am sorry for the harm and instability that caused. Then I stepped to the microphone. The room was painfully quiet. For years, I said Vale Meridian depended too heavily on the reputation of one person. That was a governance failure, and I share responsibility for allowing it. Several employees looked surprised. I continued. This company was built by engineers, nurses, analysts, sales teams, security staff, and people whose names never appeared in magazines. No one person is the company. Not Adrian, not Serena, not me. I announced independent oversight, new approval controls, whistleblower protections, and a permanent separation between personal expenses and founder authority. Then I told them I would serve as executive chair, not as a symbol, as an owner willing to be accountable. The company survived. The Helix expansion was restructured instead of canceled. Vendor costs dropped. The unsupported loans were reversed. Within 2 quarters, revenue recovered, and employee retention improved. The part that surprised me most was how many people wrote privately to say they had always wondered why Adrian's story seemed to contain no room for me. I did not know whether to feel seen or angry that no one asked sooner. Eventually, I chose neither. I chose work. We launched the Vale Forward Fund, investing in health technology companies led by women and founders from communities normally asked to surrender control in exchange for capital. At the first announcement, a reporter asked whether the fund was my revenge. No, I said. Revenge keeps the person who hurt you at the center of your decisions. This is what I wanted before he reminded me to stop waiting. Adrian faced civil claims for recovery of company funds. Prosecutors reviewed the forged documents. His attorneys negotiated for months. I rarely followed the details. The divorce was finalized that autumn. He received no interest in Vale Legacy Partners. His unvested options were gone. The apartment lease ended. The company recovered part of the improper spending through insurance and settlement. Almost a year later, a letter arrived from Vermont. Adrian wrote that he was working as an operations manager at a small software distributor. He said he finally understood that he had mistaken access for ownership applause for respect, and my patience for weakness. He wrote, I kept telling myself I had built the life around us. The truth is that you built the structure and I decorated it with my name. I read the letter once. Then I placed it in a drawer. I did not answer. Some apologies arrived too late to reopen a door. That does not make them meaningless. It simply means their purpose is no longer reconciliation. Their purpose is truth. On the next Valentine's Day, I arrived at headquarters before sunrise. There were no roses in the lobby, no champagne, no cameras. Only the night security team, the hum of the elevators, and the first lights turning on across the city. I carried 2 coffees upstairs. One for me, one for Serena, who was preparing for an early investor call. When I reached the executive floor, I stopped beside the wall where Adrian's founder portrait had once hung. It had been replaced by a photograph of the original development team. 12 people crowded around a folding table. I stood near the back, younger, exhausted, and smiling. Adrian was in the center. For the first time, the picture felt honest. He had been part of the beginning. He had never been the whole story. Serena joined me. You okay? She asked. Yes. And I was. Not because the betrayal no longer hurt. Not because the company's recovery erased the marriage. I was okay because I no longer measured my future by the worst things someone had done to me. For 14 years, I believed peace meant preserving the life we had built, even when preserving it required me to become smaller. Now I understood that peace sometimes begins with suspension notices, locked accounts, and a boardroom vote. Sometimes it begins when a woman who has been treated like a supporting character finally reads the ownership documents aloud. And sometimes it begins in a crowded lobby on Valentine's Day, when the man who borrowed your power kneels before another woman and accidentally reminds you that the power was yours all along.